Proprietary crash screens. Have you ever been working on a computer when suddenly the screen turns entirely blue with a sad face and a bunch of confusing white text? Or maybe you were using a Mac computer and the screen went black with a message in multiple languages telling you to restart. These sudden and scary interruptions are called proprietary crash screens. They are often called the blue screen of death on Windows systems or a kernel panic on Mac operating systems. While it might feel like the computer is trying to ruin your day, this crash screen is actually a built-in safety feature. When the operating system detects a hardware problem so severe that continuing to run would permanently destroy your files or physically melt the components, it throws the emergency brake. It stops everything immediately and displays this screen to tell you exactly what went wrong. As someone studying to be an IT professional, you cannot just guess why the computer crashed. You have to learn how to read these screens like a doctor reading an X-ray, especially when you are trying to find problems with the motherboard, the processor, the memory, or the power supply. When you look at a blue screen of death, the most important piece of information is the stop code, which is usually written near the bottom of the screen. To get your perfect score on the A+ exam, you must memorize what the most common hardware stop codes mean. One of the most famous codes is page fault in non-paged area. When you see this specific message, it is a massive red flag that the random access memory, or RAM, is failing. To put it simply, the central processing unit, or processor, tried to grab an important piece of information from the memory sticks, but the information was missing or corrupted because the physical memory chip is broken. If a computer gives you this error repeatedly, your best troubleshooting step is to run a software tool like the Windows Memory Diagnostic or a program called memtest86 to aggressively test the memory sticks. If the test finds errors, you must open the computer case, pull out the bad memory stick, and replace it with a new one. Another very serious stop code you will see on the exam is the WHEA uncorrectable error. WHEA stands for Windows Hardware Error Architecture. This code means the processor or the motherboard has detected a fatal physical failure. Unlike a memory error, this usually points to a problem with electricity or extreme heat. For example, if the power supply unit is starting to die, it might not send a steady flow of electricity to the processor. We call this dirty power. When the processor gets a sudden spike or drop in voltage, it gets confused, makes a math mistake, and the whole system crashes to protect itself. This WHEA error can also happen if the processor gets way too hot because the cooling fan stopped spinning or the thermal paste dried up. If you see this error, you need to check the temperatures immediately and use a power supply tester to make sure the motherboard is getting exactly 3.3 volts, 5 volts, and 12 volts from the power supply cables. Sometimes, a proprietary crash screen happens because a brand new piece of hardware is conflicting with the rest of the system. Imagine you just installed a brand new, expensive video card onto the motherboard, but as soon as you turn on a game, the computer gives you a blue screen. This usually means the software instructions for the video card, called device drivers, are corrupted or missing. The operating system tries to talk to the new video card, gets confused, and crashes. To fix this, you would restart the computer in safe mode, which loads Windows with only the most basic, essential drivers. Then, you can open the device manager, look for any hardware that has a yellow exclamation mark next to it, and completely reinstall the correct drivers. You must also understand that the motherboard itself can be the hidden cause of these crashes. If the computer is old and has been running in a hot room for years, the small cylindrical capacitors on the motherboard can swell up, bulge, or leak. These capacitors are supposed to filter and hold electricity. When they break, the electricity fluctuating through the motherboard becomes chaotic, causing random blue screens of death that seem to have no clear pattern. Because you cannot easily solder new capacitors onto a modern motherboard in the field, the only professional fix for swollen capacitors is to replace the entire motherboard. By learning to translate the stop codes on these proprietary crash screens and pairing them with a physical inspection of the processor, memory, and power supply, You will be fully prepared to handle the toughest troubleshooting questions on your certification test.